What's up? What's up? What's up? It's me again, LaShawn Bridges. Thank you for watching my YouTube channel. As each week, I discuss with you guys politics and the uprunning Democratic presidential candidates for year 2020. Sorry, you guys, that I'm just now getting back with you guys. It's been a minute. I was having technical difficulties with my computer, but thank you guys for bearing with me as I do this video from the cell phone until my computer gets right, okay? But I'm going to discuss today about businessman Andrew Yang. I know you guys have already heard that, of course, that he had dropped out of the presidential candidate race, and I was so sad to hear about that because I was rooting for him all the way. But I kind of figured out, that this would be possible that for him to drop out of the race because, I mean, his numbers were going down. And besides, MSNBC, they didn't do much promoting of his campaign, I believe, or acknowledging him throughout his whole campaign. In my opinion, he did not get the respect that he should as a presidential candidate. That's just my personal opinion. I watched the video when Andrew Yang thanked supporters for being there for him during his campaign. He talked about how everyone has uplifted him, and including his wife, Evelyn, throughout his whole campaign. I thought that was really nice for him to say. And I especially liked when he explained how they went from a Gmail list to over 400,000 people donating. I was just like, wow, around the country. He then explained how he gave $1,000 a month to about 13 different families. And I feel that he did this to prove that, the universal basic income plan really does work. Because it will help put money into the hands of citizens who are struggling in this world and working and living from paycheck to paycheck. He discussed also how Americans, will now know how automation works and how modern technology has a huge influence on the world. And I liked it when he said that our signature proposal of the universal basic income has become part of the mainstream conversation. And I agree. Because even though he may not have won the presidential candidate of choice campaign, he has opened our eyes to allow us to see how having a universal basic income would affect this economy in a tremendous way. And I feel that, it will be now an open discussion amongst other candidates because Andrew Yang, he has allowed them to see the vision of the universal basic income plan. And whether they agree with it or not, it's really hard for people to not agree with the universal basic income. Think about it, guys. It only makes sense. And I was looking also during the Wednesday polls and watching those polls for the Democratic presidential candidate of choice. And the primary read on those polls, Biden was at 24, Sanders was at 20, Bloomberg at 16, Warren at 11, Buttigieg at 8. According to the polls at that time, Klobuchar was at 3, and Steyer was at 4, and Gabbard was at 2. Then on the 2020 Democratic presidential nomination, Sanders was at 22, Biden was at 18, Bloomberg at 12, Warren at 15, Buttigieg at 10, Klobuchar at 7, Yang at 2, and Steyer at 1, and Gabbard at 4. But of course, Yang has now dropped out, and Senator Michael Bennet, which is former Massachusetts Governor Deval Patrick, has not been seen also on the last debate stage, but also has dropped out, unfortunately, But according to U.S. Today, during the first in the national primary state, Yang was at 2.8% of the votes, while Patrick and Bennett got 0.4% and 0.3% of the votes. Yang told supporters during election night that he is a math guy. But he cannot, he looked at the numbers and realized that he clearly saw that he will definitely not, be winning this race according to the numbers. So sad to say. But now let's look at who is still in the race for presidential candidate on the Democratic side. Senator Amy Klobuchar is still in the race, former vice president from Minnesota. Is in the race. In Joe Biden, he's, vice president, is in the race. Pete Buttigieg, the Navy veteran and former mayor of South Bend, Indiana, is still in the race. Senator Elizabeth Warren is still in the race for president. And Senator Bernie Sanders is still in the race. And billionaire Michael Bloomberg is also still in the race for presidential candidate. Even though she hasn't had the best polls, Tulsi Gabbard is still running for president, to my amazement. But Tulsi has been fighting in the campaigns to become president from beginning to end, I feel. If I had to put the two candidates together, if I was to really sit and think about, who would be a good, team? I think that Bernie Sanders would mix good with Tulsi Gabbard or Amy Klobuchar. Let me explain. Amy Klobuchar, she has similar views to me, just like Bernie Sanders. She agrees with the need of pushing forward with a universal health care, just like Bernie does, but with a public option. She also agrees that, with lowering the cost of prescription drugs, and has introduced bills to help push to alternative methods of prescription drugs. While Bernie, has a similar plan, but it differs a little, than hers, than what she wants to do. But they both agree with the universal basic income, that they need to have one and put in place. Even though hers is more of a public option first, rather than forcing everyone to have universal health care and not continue their private health care options, such as Bernie would like them to do. But I feel together they would have a pretty good team, for the most part. They're very spunky, they're very, verbal, and they're very just really outspoken. And I feel like they would make a good running team together if they just had to, team up somebody. I feel. But, in the National Democratic, Bernie Sanders, he still remains the front runner. He's ended up having more votes than anyone in the Iowa caucuses, come to find out. And according to more recent polls, Biden's polls have dropped as Bernie Sanders have risen. And according to CNN, Sanders have 25% support amongst Democrats. Joe Biden has 17% support. Former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg was at 15%. Elizabeth Warren was at 14%. And former South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg was at 10%. And Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar was at 4%. Now, we don't know who will rise up next in the polls. Just to keep watching. And we have to look for things, to find out if Bernie is remaining a very strong, excuse me, Democratic presidential candidate. I mean, despite all the, people that are not really for Bernie Sanders, I feel that Bernie Sanders is still a very strong candidate. And as long as he continues to express his opinions, especially push his universal basic health care option, I think people will, realize his passion of what he's trying to do. Now, there has been argument throughout the campaign and throughout the debates as to how will this healthcare, universal healthcare, be funded. A lot of people feel like that it will cost us consumers and taxpayers more money out of our pocket to support this universal healthcare plan. So I think during the, more debates that he has, Bernie Sanders needs to explain how we're going to be able to afford this universal basic income plan, because rumors are saying that this plan could cost like trillions of dollars. And Joe Biden, he feels that Bernie's plan is ridiculous, that he's not really thinking about what this will actually cost the people. So I think that's something that Bernie need to sit down and do the math again and try to figure out a way that it will not cost the consumers, which is us, lots of money. Because, if you think about this universal basic income plan, no one's thinking about how this universal basic income plan will be budgeted. They're not thinking about the taxes going up. And if taxes go up, we're seeing more. Like if we go grocery shopping, we're seeing more taxes on our food. We're seeing gas go up. Remember when gas was like $3 a gallon or more, $4 a gallon? So we're not thinking about those types of issues of what this universal basic income plan will cost. But, on the good side of it all, I do feel that Bernie Sanders have passion and that he's a very strong candidate from the beginning to end. And if he continues to be that strong candidate, then I feel like he will go a long way. My only issue with him is how is this universal basic income going to affect us? I really worry about that issue. But as far as in all the other things that he want to do, like free health care, as far as in free college tuition or, wiping away student loans and things like that, I feel like he has very awesome policies, that he wants to put in place for America. So we just have to continue to watch Bernie Sanders and continue to watch all the other candidates as well, and just see, as we follow the debates and follow, what we listen to on the internet and on TV, and just, we'll have to see. But see you guys next time. My next post, I will discuss President Donald Trump, who has been impeached. And he actually won, his impeachment. But we're going to talk about that and discuss that further. Because I was like, what? He's found not guilty? What? But we'll talk about that in the next post. Thank you for watching my YouTube video. And please don't forget to click the like button at the end of this video. And don't forget to subscribe. And see you next time. Deuces.